Hey everyone, thanks for coming. And I'm sure you're here because I gave you some stickers. So I'm going to talk about a tool, which of course I love, and I've been using it since 4 years. And I've always advocate for this because I just love the tool and I just want more people to use it. So when I was researching about this talk, I of course asked like developers, what is your most productivity killers, right? Because of course the developers are the one who is struggling with the development and productivity as well. So I just asked a few questions, like if you are using some monorepo tools, and of course I got like some responses. Yeah, people are using Yarn, NPM, and I think this NX monorepo part increased since I started going to conferences, like or sharing this question more. Because when I did my first one, it was just one guy who was one person or whoever was. He was using NX, and over the years, like this is probably maybe 7th or 8th time I'm doing this talk, similar talk. So yeah, but this is the distribution, right? This is what people are using it. But before I go ahead, how many of you are actually a backend developer here? Okay, and .NET? No one? The Spring Boot? And what about others? Front end? Angular? NestJS, anyone who is using NestJS? Okay, cool. So I have demo for NestJS as well because I knew that this might happen. Okay, and then I asked about like what is stopping them from becoming more productive, right? And one of the top one was actually long CRNs. I'm sure most of us are struggling with this. And then local build and test. Of course, legends say there are Java developers who are still waiting for their build to complete. And of course, same applies to .NET developer as well. And you know the front-end ecosystem as well, it is improving. You need tools, your build tools to actually build the different frameworks. And it is also like one of the time-consuming tasks on your local machine as well. And then in case you have to run tests, just forget about it. Like you start your tests and then go back, come after an hour, and still your tests are running. And then finalizing app structure, if you see like 38 people said, yes, this is one of the most time-consuming tasks because we don't know, right? I mean, how to keep our code. Should we keep front and back end together? Should we have a different repository for your front end, different repository for your back end, different repositories for your shared libs, right? So that's always a challenge because not many teams wants to share code. This is also one of the problem, right? But yeah, this is like top 3. So I just wanted to visualize like how many percent of people are actually struggling with long CRNs, and then you can see there are 40% of people who said, okay, the CI is between 30 minutes to 1 hour. It means if you raise a PR, you waste 1 hour to 30 minutes to 1 hour. And there are people who are actually waiting for more than 1 hour, which is 8.6%, which is huge. Now, with this front-end ecosystem improving, there are tools which is coming, for example, Storybook, Cypress, Jest, and you have Playwright, right? There are many tools which are coming into ecosystem, and teams wants to explore it, at least give a POC. And that's a huge pain, right? So if you want to include a new tool in your existing ecosystem, how should you do that? So you book a POC time, right? So for example, you will book 1 week or 2 weeks just to try it out, like if you're able to configure it. And yeah, configuring is the major part, that it should work with your existing ecosystem. That's a time-consuming task as well. And of course, we expect new tools to come. Like every week, there is a new front-end framework and new build tool. So, and while doing this survey, there are a few developers who said, yeah, they are using .NET, Spring Boot, and yeah, there are JavaScript and Golang developers as well. So let's see. So my talk is about like improve your team's productivity using NX. And when the organizing team said how much time you need, I said 2 hours. They said, okay, you have 20 minutes. Cool. So let me talk about myself a little bit. So my name is Santosh Yadav. I work for a company called Celonis, and I work from home. And I live in Germany. You can find me on internet. Just go to Santosh Yadav dev, santoshYadav.dev, and you will find all the information about me. I'm an Angular expert, Google developer expert for Angular, and a GitHub Star as well. So let's talk about structuring your app, right? So I'm talking about one app, for example, like how you should finalize or structure your app, for example. So generally we talk about DDD, domain-driven design, and it tells you, okay, split your app by using features. So we do this, okay? So this is my feature 1, feature 2, and let's talk about a specific feature. So we said, okay, this is how we'll distribute our code. We'll have a code, and then we'll distribute across feature 1, feature 2, and then we'll have feature libraries for each feature, and there can be multiple, right? And at the end, everyone loves to create shared lib. Everyone loves to do it, especially Java developers for some reason. So you have some shared lib lying across some of the repository, and then one of the thing which is like improving a lot, or you can say adoption of this is improving a lot, is design system. There was a time people were happy using Bootstrap. Now everyone wants their own design system. So yeah, that's perfectly fine until unless you have to actually go ahead and make every team adopt it. That's a pain, right? Because of course, if you have a separate repo for your design system, everyone needs to update it, right? And then people are like, okay, I don't have money, we don't have time, we don't have resources, different issues with different teams. But at least, and the organization says, why our UI looks different for all the apps? Because of course, you don't have money, right? So you have to prioritize it. And of course, shared libs as well, because at one point of time, you have to actually compromise, because different teams need different features, and then your code becomes a mess. And then some team wants to update, some teams don't want to update. That's common across all the enterprises or any company in case you have more than one product, right? But let's talk about a different thing. What about the build, right? So let's say if you have an app code like this, and then you have a feature, multiple features, and then you decided, okay, we'll go with this approach because it gives me flexibility that teams can work in silos, right? I mean, they can deliver their features. But once you have to build, what you do? You build everything, right? This is your affected code as, let's say, if I'll go back to the previous slide because I wanted to show you something. So let's say you said, okay, my feature 1 team worked on this, and this is my code. We committed your code. And then as per the changes, what should be impacted? So the impacted code should be this, in red, right? Because, of course, you made changes to feature 1. Do we do that as of today? No. We build everything, especially in case if changes are at shared library or design system, we go with all these changes, we publish it, and then we ask every team to go ahead and upgrade it. Every team builds their entire code base because, of course, they cannot just build what has changed because they don't know how to. And this is one of the time-consuming tasks, right? What in case a build tool can do this for you? For example, here, if you make changes to feature 1, and as per dependency graph, we know that, okay, this feature 1 lib, shared lib, and design system never changed and should not be built. I should build this feature 1 library or whatever the code base is, and then my app code, because, of course, they are directly dependent. We are not doing this today, and we are losing a lot of time. Developers' time, companies' money, and developers are happy. Okay, we are taking enough coffee breaks, right? Because once you praise a PR, what you do? Go for a break. Okay, and I think everyone agrees to this, that build tools are, at enterprise, are not so fast. Everyone knows Vite. Anyone? Yeah? Mostly front-end developers. Yeah, of course, they might have heard about it. It's fast, right? It's blazing fast. That's what they say. Not true at enterprises, right? We know that. So let's see why our speed or build speed is not so fast at enterprises. Because we keep adding code. Every day, your product manager comes and says, hey, we need this feature. No one knows why we need that feature. But the only thing we need that feature is your product manager has money. So he has budget for a year. He or she, whoever is working at that position, they have money, and they want you to deliver this feature. Is it going to be used? No one knows. But yeah, you're adding more code. It means you're increasing your build time. And at the end, you as a developer, what you do, you raise a PR, you sit idle, do nothing, and you keep waiting. And at the end, you go and fight with your coworkers. No, we don't do that, right? We say, okay, yeah, I'm just having a coffee break. So I'll give you a small story, but before I do this, just don't block me on social media because I'm going to give you some spoilers about Loki season 2, okay? Because someone blocked me last time. Okay, so let's get help from Loki, how Loki actually resolved this issue, because he was into similar issue recently. And if you see, so Loki went to his desk and found, okay, there are so many branches which we are trying to get merged, and it's becoming a chaos. literally chaos. I mean, my build system is not able to actually adopt to this. And Loki got scared and went to his DevOps team. And DevOps team said, yeah, give it more time. It will finish. Give it more time. And then they thought, oh, but it's like, there are so many branches, how they will be merged, I mean, on time. So they're still confused. Then one of the senior DevOps engineers says, hey, it's a scaling problem. Okay, so Loki says, okay, let's increase the throughput. And they said, okay, we increase the throughput now. What happens next? But, okay, the problem is still not resolved. It's still not getting merged. Like, all the branches are not getting merged on the time. There are so many branches. So they said, okay. And then Loki says, and then other DevOps team says, hey, that's what we are adjusting for, right? We are increasing the throughput. We are adding more cores. We are adding more machines. But this problem is not getting solved. And then Loki realizes it will never be enough because we cannot scale for infinite, right? You can solve that issue today, not for tomorrow, or not 1 year after, right? This issue will be always there. So Loki decides that, okay, this is a tooling problem. Let's change the build tool. And that's what we are going to do. Let's change the build tool. So we are going to see a demo of Ngx tool. And let me show you some code. So I've already created a repository because I had a lot of time, right, at home, not here. So, so I just created some apps. So of course, you can find all the commands on nx.dev. That's a documentation. And I created an Angular app, I created a Nest app, and I created a .NET app, just to give you some overview, right? So here, let's say how NX resolves this issue, because NX has this tool where you can actually go ahead and add any framework, any technology. It's irrespective of whatever framework you have. It works on a plugin-based system, so you can bring any tool, any technology. Even you can bring your homegrown framework as part of this particular tool. So I still have 5 minutes, so I'll just try to finish my demo. So you can go to NX console. Of course, I don't like to show you CLI because CLI is, of course, you have to learn about it, right? So you can always go to add dependencies. And let's say if you are using Spring Boot, you can search for Spring Boot, and there is a plugin for Spring Boot. It allows you to create applications. Allows you to create libraries. So you can split your code. The code or the diagram we saw, that how you can bring or split your code based on the features. That is something which is doable by adding this plugin. And you can, as I said, bring any technology, any framework, doesn't matter. But what's the advantage? And the advantage is it solves the same issue which we talked about, or the issue which Loki solved. So let's go ahead and see that. For example, I have created a Nest API, and this is my app, Nest API. It's a NestJS app, basically. And I also created a library, which is Nest file. So let's go ahead and build this. And to build it, you have to just run like nx run and your application or library name. So I'll say, okay, Nest file. And then I can say, okay, I want to build it. You see something? It's so fast. Why? It's not because it's using Vite. It's because it has something known as caching. So it caches the previous build. It keeps on your local machine, and it replaces the same. So in case you have not changed anything, you just get everything from the cache. Let's go one level up. What in case I build an app? Because apps are something which can use 10 different libraries, right? And let's build that Nest API, which is actually using this library. And it was still fast because I previously built it, right? But the most important thing to understand here is this. It says NX read output from the cache instead of running the command for 2 of 2 tasks. So it knew that this API or this application, Nest application, is actually dependent on one more library, and it can actually define it from or recognize it from the dependency graph. So NX figures out what are the dependent applications, and it will build everything for you once you build an app. But can you visualize this? Because that will be really helpful for senior engineers, right? I mean, to see how it looks like, how my application is structured. So of course, you can use something known as NX graph. And once you do this, you will get something like this, where you can visualize. You can see what app is dependent on which library. If you are doing something wrong, the best way to do is generate it on each PR. So it's easy to review for senior engineers in the team. Because once you go like above 100 libraries, it's a mess, right? You can just make a small mistake, and then everything goes wrong. You have circular dependency in your project, and a happy time solving that circular dependency. Right? It takes days, months, weeks, right? So this is NX graph. And of course, now this is on your local, right? So you build, you get the cache on your local, but I said, okay, you'll be able to resolve this problem for your team. And this, let's move ahead, and I'll show you how we can solve that issue. So of course, we know sharing is caring, but we don't do that, right? Because we don't know how to do it. So NX has something known as distributed caching. So NX has a product called NX Cloud, which is free for open source. So in case you have open source project, go ahead and use it. If you have enterprises, it is free for some time, but you can actually go ahead and buy this product. And it actually allows you or gives you distributed caching. So you can actually distribute your cache across multiple machines, and then your developers can actually just take from the cache. So let's say someone new onboarded to your team, and he actually, so the developer comes in and runs the build, and it is completed within a second. Because everything is built already. It's available on the cache. And the good thing about this is when you, as a developer, we do one thing regularly, push more commits to a branch. And what happens in that case? The entire code is built again and again. But NX, with distributed caching, can actually just build the difference between last commit and the commit you pushed. So you save a lot of time running the build again and again, yeah. And this is, and another thing which NX supports as part of NX Cloud is distributed task execution. Now you might be wondering what is distributed task execution. So if you see in your pipeline, you run multiple tasks. You do build, you, but maybe you are running end-to-end test cases, you are running test cases, right? So these are tasks. As of today, what we do is, in case you're using GitHub Actions, you might be using, let's say, what do you call, metrics, where you can actually distribute your task, but it costs more money. NX can do it for you, and you don't have to worry about like how many agents. Generally, if it's a big project, you should start with 10 agents. So NX can actually distribute all your builds, all your tests, all your end-to-end tests on different agents for you. So I'll show you how it looks like. So I just did it for one of the PR, and so this is how it looks like with 3 agents. And it gives you all this information on NX Cloud app. So you can visualize how much percentage of machine or CPU time you're using. So you don't have to worry about, okay, your cost. Let's say if you have 10 agents and you see, okay, I ran it for a month, and I think I don't need more than 5 machines or 5 agents. You can just go ahead and scale it down. So you'll be able to see all the reports generated available on your NX Cloud app, and you can also see the time. So here, it says, okay, for build, it took this many time. For test, it took probably 4 seconds for build, because of course, this was a small app. But let's see the difference, right? So I just ran it for not few times, but 38 times to see how much time I'm able to save. And for a small app, I was able to save 7 minutes of computation time, which is huge win, right? You're able to save the time. So this is it. If you want to try out NX, just use NX Connect command, and you will be able to adopt NX Cloud as well. As I said, free for open source, you can use it. Shameless plug, I have an Angular course available on FreeCodeCamp. It's a 17-hour course. So in case anyone wants to learn it, it's available for free. And I'm working on new course, probably it will be available next year. And shout out to my GitHub sponsors, because that's why I'm able to travel and, of course, give this talk. So Commenter, Ox, and AppRipe, they are my biggest sponsors. And there are a few individual sponsors as well. And if you have any questions, you can ask. And otherwise, we can just catch up afterwards. And yeah, we can have talk.